So if you're thinking about doing something like YouTube, look, I'm just going to keep it very real with you. There's a lot of people who won't really tell you how it really is because it's tough and it's way tougher than you actually think. I think most people quit before they get any sort of traction. Honestly, if you're really serious about this and you want to make this a future career, a future business, then I got some real advice for you. So in this video, I'm going to share all the advice that I wish someone gave me when I first started way long ago. So let's talk. By the way, nothing here is cookie cutter. This is the real that I've seen through my clients like Abdaal, through my mastermind, through Aprilynne Alter's channel, and a bunch of other creators. And this is the stuff that I'm actually experiencing that you could only know through actually doing it. So let's talk about it. Number one, going viral can be one of the worst things that happens to your channel. I'm not sure if you guys know, but one of my guilty pleasures are watching those Atozy channels or this Twitch streamer screwed up their life. This TikToker just got arrested. And something that I kind of realized over the years is going viral for the stuff that you don't really care about or want to be known is one of the worst things that can happen to you. Because honestly, a lot of times you become synonymous with that thing that you go viral for. Just to give you context, a few years ago, you probably can't find the video anymore, but I went viral for a video for a Twitch girl that I interviewed who forgot to turn off her camera. You can kind of put two and two together. People are doing guitar memes and all that sort of stuff. Not that long after, I actually did a video on incels, the MGTOW people, and ended up getting a bunch of trolls flooding my channel with all this negativity and all this sort of stuff. And then I actually did a don't do pharmacy video, which, was probably a lot better because I used to be a pharmacy channel back in the day. But still, I never really thought about okay, what am I hoping to accomplish by getting more views? And I think that's an important thing because here's what no one tells you about going viral. One, building a monetization strategy just 100% off AdSense isn't really viable and it's extremely volatile. It keeps on fluctuating. And then we always hear horror stories of YouTube cutting rates and stuff like that. Most of the money that creators make through AdSense usually just to go to the operation cost of a YouTube channel. Number two, once you go viral, often you're left with the feeling of, so what now? You get the dopamine hit of, ooh, all these people are on my channel, but now it just feels kind of empty, especially if you don't want to be known for that type of thing. Vanessa Lau had a great video series, 13 things that she wished she knew as a content creator or something like that. And she has this saying don't feed the pig, where it means hey, for the stuff that you don't want to be viral for, don't keep on feeding into it. And number three, what no one tells you is there's no point of going viral if you don't build a long-term relationship with the audience either. So the problem that I feel I did with my channel was I was creating more and more content that was getting more views. And this was the content I didn't want to be known for. So I found myself kind of niching further and further in for stuff that I didn't really care about. So for example, I used to be a pharmacy channel. I did a lot of pharmacy content. Some of it hit and I started doing more and more. And so then people wanted more pharmacy content. I did high ticket sales or high ticket closing based off this guru course I took many years ago, but then I became synonymous with high ticket closing. Same thing happened with investing too. I did it at the time because I want to grow the channel, I want to get more views, but then what I really didn't realize was I was transactioning the relationship even further, if that makes sense. Let's go into the next one. Niching down is bad advice for most beginners. Don't get me wrong, it's super profitable. And I think during my morning pages, I wrote this really awesome quote. If you want to profit, pick a niche and productize. If you want a personal brand, personalize and produce a portfolio of content. And the truth is, if you pick a niche, it's a really solid idea for profiting. And I think one of the questions I would ask myself is what am I hoping to accomplish with this channel? And if the goal is to profit, then you should productize, you should pick a product and pick a niche and just double down on it. It's just lead gen for that offer. But if you want to build a relationship, that's more of a personal brand. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. It's kind of funny, one of my clients, Abdaal, one of the things that I really like about him is that he niches down on the products, not his personality. If you want to drive traffic or views or lead gen to a product or service, it makes a lot of sense to niche. Something that I've just noticed in the ecosystem is most people who have really niche channels kind of burn out after 3 to 5 years. Obviously not all creators, but I've seen a huge trend. For example, my friend Vanessa Lau, she was talking a lot about Instagram growth and all that sort of stuff. But after a few years, she kind of outgrew her niche. And that's something that most beginners don't ever consider is that we can outgrow these niches or these subject matters. And one of the things that people always ask me is like, hey, Kevin, well, how would you know? You never niche down. You know what I tell people? You don't know that much about me. I actually created a YouTube channel called Kick-Ass Investing. I had a whole product, a whole funnel for it. It wasn't super profitable. I did get some sales for all that sort of stuff, and it was probably really high CPM. I know there was a lot of YouTubers like Invest with Rose that kind of blew up. We started around the same time, but I just couldn't do it. And when I started doing an investment channel talking about like index funds, bond funds and stuff, I just burned the out because I just hated the transactional aspect behind it. I just got really tired about talking about the same things over and over again. And there's only so much you can do like talking about the same things. Yes, there's an element of creativity. Like that's why I respect someone like Casey Neistat, who just could do the same thing every day but have a creative spin to it. But even him, he eventually like got really tired of it. Funny enough, I mentioned Invest with Rose. She had a period where she got really tired of talking about like personal finance too. And so if you double down on that type of content, it just builds a very transactional relationship. Like, hey, if you watch my videos, you will learn about X. But what happens when you stop talking about X? Well, people kind of stop following you, they leave, they unsubscribe, they don't click on your videos, and you have to start from zero all again. And this happened especially when I left pharmacy, because secretly back in the day, I just was really unhappy as a pharmacist and I was pretty open about it. And when I stopped doing pharmacy content, people stopped clicking, and I can't blame those people because that's what I built the relationship on. So just like with relationships, I think if it's a business, it's okay to be a bit transactional. That's the whole point. You're solving a problem for money, right? But ultimately, if you want a personal brand, you want to build a relationship capital of the 1,000 true fans concept. Find people and build a relationship, people who love you for who you are, not what you can do for them. And I think girl vloggers, they do this really well by showing aspects of their life through vlogging, through their storytelling too. I really look up to someone like my fam in terms of this. Yeah, it's kind of weird, like, yo, bro is like 36-year-old man watching my fam and stuff like that. But I think it's really interesting. Another thing that I wish people told me back in the day was to build a content portfolio. I kind of got the idea from investing, and I started watching Ramit Sethi just kind of go back online and create YouTube content. So if you look at my history of like YouTube content, I think from 2016 to 2019 or something like that, I uploaded every single day. Like I almost had uploads every single day, and that grew the channel quite a bit, but it wasn't like exponential growth. In my opinion, is because the quality sucked. I dropped it down to like once or twice a week from 2018 to 2021. And then when I moved to Vegas, I was just like, hey, I just want to create like high quality content, just focus on fewer uploads. But that really killed my channel, honestly. That's when the AdSense took a hit. I was making everything a lot more complex than it had to be. And I was increasing production quality. I was like buying new cameras, new equipment. But the truth was, I'm not a videographer, and I suck compared to those like cinematic people. And plus, what I realized too was like after a lot of reflection recently, I realized people don't come to my channel for that. They come for my either personality or the stories I tell, or just the that I'm going through in real life. I try not to hide anything, even though I'm not perfect at it. I do my best to just tell people how it is and what I'm actually going through. And so what I wish I did was, one, think about more about like what was the value prop that I was like, why people were coming to my channel. But the second thing is I wish I did was build a content portfolio. And again, I think Abdaal does this really well. I've seen Ramit Sethi do this really well too, where it's like an investment portfolio. And you're probably like wondering, what the heck is content portfolio? So this is like having like different types of video in your whole content ecosystem. So let me explain. And so there's 3 different types of content. This is not my philosophy, by the way, I forgot who, but there's like discoverable content. So this is the viral content that might be experimental, like you might be trying out new things, but the goal is to get new audiences to the channel. There's a relational content or community content. This is kind of like to build a deeper relationship with your current audience, the people inside your tribe. And then there's conversion content or sales content. On YouTube especially, it's not always direct to offer like, hey, buy my thing, right? A lot of times this is when you're asking your audience to go like off platform. So if I ask you, hey, subscribe to my newsletter, top link below, right? That's kind of like that conversion content. So why would you want to kind of use this strategy? Well, there's 3 things that I've kind of realized is like, one, it kind of optimizes for impressions and growth, right? Like think about it like your stocks. These are the things that like really grow your portfolio and grow, like if we were to think like money as views, this is what it's kind of like. But the thing is, it's highly risky. You don't know what's going to hit in the algorithm a lot of times. So you can't go all out on this because you'll just really exhaust yourself. Like people like Mr. Beast that probably just went all in and they got really lucky. But it's also really risky too because you don't know what's going to hit, what's not going to hit. And then there's operation costs to your YouTube channel, your YouTube videos over time. The second thing that content portfolio does, it protects you from like burnout and it's sustainable. So in my portfolio right now, I have like a bunch of like easy lifts, easy videos, like these sitting down videos where I can just yap to the camera, but still add value to my audience. And then I have more like higher production quality videos that come out maybe once a month or twice a month, like different types of videos. You'll probably see it over this next arc of Kevin Yee. And 3, it nurtures your audience too. Like I think there is something to consistency where people kind of like recognize you for certain things. And if you're always top of mind and you're kind of creating content consistently with like balancing this portfolio, I think that's a really good strategy. Someone who I think does this really well is like Ramit Sethi. He has a bunch of content like, hey, money expert reacts to TikToks, right? That's one of his things. He has his like money consults where he talks to people too. That's more community content. And then he has his talking head videos too. And then he has his experimental stuff where he has like 20 years of business knowledge in 53 minutes. This was a ripoff of Simon Squibb's video. I don't know why I remember that title kind of, but yeah, it's like I see it all the time now, but it's really sustainable for me and he's actually like growing quite a bit with his channel. And so you're probably at this point like, if I do this content portfolio, how much do I do in everything, right? And I think just like with investing, it depends on like your capacity, your unfair advantages. The ratios are up to you, but I'll share kind of like what I'm planning to do for the channel. I was talking to Chris Do about this and he has this ratio of 4-1-1. So he has like 4 education videos without asking for anything, 1 sales or off-platform video, and 1 piece of personal content to just build a relationship. I think this is a pretty good ratio where it's still value adding, but people are getting to know you too. What I find for me is like, I need to have a system where it balances my inner artist, right? Because I don't know, I'm a repressed artist. There's a reason why I quit pharmacy, right? And then I want to also grow my personal brand, hopefully in the long run. And so with this portfolio, you can kind of keep on investing, AKA producing videos. And it feels like this concept in investing called dollar cost averaging. And it allows you to kind of not worry about trying to hit a home run all the time. It's like those people who try to stock pick and just try and make it big. It's like the Wall Street bets people. And they're always stressed out, right? They're always monitoring the market, ups and downs. But when you dollar cost average, you can just chill. The only thing you need to worry about is just putting content out there. Maybe it'll hit, maybe it won't. And you just notice the data that is coming in and you make changes there. What I realized is like, this takes a lot of the pressure off. Specifically for me, I overthink a lot and I get this perfectionism. I'm like, oh my God, this is not good enough. When I think about the drag or the friction in my YouTube process, it's like, oh, how often should I post, right? The frequency. Or what should I talk about, right? Or the stress of the constant performance. Those are things that stress me the out and honestly prevent me from actually creating YouTube videos in the first place. I started doing this with my team and it's changed everything for me. We're making a lot of progress. We're getting more consistent with the channel. We're actually enjoying the process again. And I think I came to this point in my life where I realized like, oh, this perfectionism, it was bleeding all over my business. I was putting a lot of pressure on my team because I was focusing too much on making the perfect videos. And because they weren't performing, because like the audience was very, very different, I would have these moments where I would lash out. We were just focused on creating the perfect videos, but now like I'm just focused on like trying out new things, having fun with the process, noticing what people like and what people don't like, noticing what I like because it has to be sustainable to me, just showing up, helping people, and just doubling down on the areas that perform really well that I want to double down in. Number 4, focus on sustainable content formats. The key word here is like sustainable. A lot of times we hear the advice like, hey, be consistent, but what the does that really mean? Does that mean showing up every single day? And with more content creators coming out, just flooding the market with content, how do we actually stand out? So in an ideal world, it's kind of like getting the most bang for your buck on a purchase. We want to have the lowest amount of friction with the highest amount of ROI. What should we actually put in our content portfolio? And in my opinion, there's like this concept of content formats. That's what we fill our portfolio with. So you might be asking, well, what are these different formats that we can do? Aprilynne, my friend, she's super analytical, creates some of the best YouTube videos out there. She had this video on video ideas. After watching a ridiculous amount of videos, she discovered that there's 6 different types of formats. So let's break them down. One, there's a tutorial video, which is kind of like your basic talking head, your Ali Abdaal video where you're teaching something usually. There's a challenge video where you have some sort of goal with some sort of challenge, right? Or limitation. We see this a lot in the fitness arena, like, hey, I tried walking 10,000 steps every single day for 30 days, right? I saw this really interesting one with like by Builderpreneur. He was like, hey, I'm gonna try to build a YouTube team off of Fiverr, right? Then there's breakdown video so I like to think about that video that I mentioned earlier, taking 30 years of business experience and consolidating it down to 2 hours and 23 minutes. Aprilynne's videos is like when she watches 1,000 different videos and condenses to one PDF file into like 20 minutes. That is gold. There's commentary video where there's an expert reacting to something. There's vlog, which is kind of like your yapping content. And then there's interview. Could be a podcast or street interview, but one of the interesting things is like you can actually mix these together and stuff too. Like for example, let's say if I'm doing a challenge video, you'll see this like with some Kelly Wakasa videos or anything like that. You're like, hey, I want to do XYZ, but I don't know that much about this. Why don't I ask my friend who's an expert at this? And then you can mix these things up, right? Aprilynne actually did a really great video of like all these YouTube experts. So you can mix and match it and create your own unique experience for your audience too. But notice what I mentioned earlier, right? Like if you're doing a breakdown video every single week, that is exhausting. There's a reason why Aprilynne only posts like once in a blue moon, because this takes an insane amount of time just to come up with, right? So I think the key is to have a portfolio based off of difficulty. And I think that's the beauty of things. Like even though he's getting canceled right now, Mr. Beast, he's always testing out different formats because he's realizing people get really tired of them, right? Something important to know is like things go out of trend or out of style. But entertainment channels do this really well. Like if we go on Jubilee, we can see like the different formats, like test your radar. But there's a huge line of people and they're like, did you get plastic surgery or not? Or they have like middle ground where they have 2 opposing sides. Oh, are you like Republicans versus Democrats, right? And they're always like debating. But if you notice like the style of these videos, the titles are relatively the same. The editing's relatively the same. And then the thumbnails are relatively the same, easier. So something cool about this is like it gets easier and easier over time the more data that you get. And as I'm trying this, I'm also noticing that it's a lot easier to produce content because of this too. I'm not having to recreate the wheel every single time. Another thing about my portfolio too is like notice the core of my channel, these bedroom reflection videos where I just sit on the floor. This is my testing ground because it's sustainable, easy. It's easy for my editor. Okay, let's go into the next thing. Number 5, focus on content packaging before shooting a video. So one of the things that I used to do as a baby YouTuber was like, oh, I feel like waking up and doing this video, right? And I would shoot the video, I would edit it, and then I'd be like, what should I name the video, right? So bad. And then I'd be like, oh, what should the thumbnail be? Maybe I'll take this screenshot, and it would always bomb, right? And I did this over and over again for like 1,000 something videos. It was not the best. And so one of the things I try to do now before starting any video is the content packaging. You might be asking like, what is content packaging? Like, I think Christmas gifts are actually a great example of this. So if you like give a kid an iPhone, great, they're happy, right? But imagine those unboxing videos where you have like a huge ass box, and inside the box is another box, and inside that box is another box. And maybe it might be like an Android box, and like, oh shoot, like I don't want an Android, right? Content packaging is the way that you present or put your video idea together. And we do this through 3 ways, right? There's the title, the topic, and the thumbnail too. And if you have good content packaging, it should attract attention just like intuitively. Like no one's gonna stare at your thumbnail for like 10 minutes and be like, oh, I wonder what this is about, right? It'll create a curiosity gap of something that they want to know. It could be a problem, a big idea, a unique idea, a big question. It should set the expectations of what the video is about. And the reason why I do this is because I quickly realized realize it takes the same amount of resources logistically to do a crappy video versus a viral video. Roughly the same, right? So for example, like if we look at it logistically, I pay my thumbnail editor the same, I pay my editor the same, right? I'm investing the time to shoot these videos. So if I'm going to invest these resources, why not shift the odds in my favor? I guess you could reshoot, but it's like different. It's a lot more work on the back end. The key is to get like feedback upstream versus downstream, right? Because trying to do your thumbnail and title after it's done, it's already too late. And I know this is a pain in the ass, and I know like half the people watching this probably won't do it because I didn't do it for years. A lot of people are wondering like, hey, I want feedback on my video, but really it starts at packaging, not the actual video. Ideally for content packaging, we want to answer the few questions. So it's like, okay, how do I come up, or what is the sexy idea that I have for this video? How do I make this idea sexier? And how do I communicate this idea intuitively, right? And so how do I come up with these ideas? Well, usually I'll get like some sort of inspiration from others, right? Like some people will straight up copy. I'm very big on innovating, not copying, because actually Jake Tran had a great video when he was talking about YouTube. If you put a Mr. Beast thumbnail with Mr. Beast's face, like my thumbnail copying the exact same style, who are you going to click on? You're going to click on Mr. Beast every single time because he has brand recognition, right? He's the originator of that content, right? And so I'll look at a lot of outliers. I subscribe to Creator Hooks Pro. What I really like about him is like every week he sends a different outliers for the titles and stuff like that. And he also has a database full of old newsletters that he kind of broke down the structure that you can use for your topics, your niche and stuff like that. I've honestly used AI to rip all that, but I'll talk more about that later. The second thing is thumbnail inspirations. So usually the free way I do sometimes is I'll go on my Explore page, I'll keep on scrolling on my phone where I'm just scrolling, and then I notice what my eyes like kind of latch onto, right? I'll save that, and then I'll keep on going. After I have these collection of thumbnails, I'll reverse engineer why I clicked it. Also notice like things that have a high viewer to subscriber ratio, like if it's like 2 or 3x, let's say there's a video that they only have like 10,000 subscribers, and they have like 600k views in like 2 months, that's an outlier video. I'll be like, ooh, this is interesting. Why are people clicking on it? I'll look in the comments and stuff and all that, but I'll reverse engineer what is the attention getting thing in the packaging. There's a few other tools for this, like there's one of Finder. I have a whole review video on that. And another one that I'm doing a review video on right now, it's called Spotter Studio. These should help optimize your ideas before shooting. The third thing is like, where do I get my ideas? As I'm like scrolling through things, it'll help inspire different ideas. I also like to look in different niches and stuff and see what I can apply from different niches that haven't been applied to the topics I'm talking about. I'll also review like transcripts of the hook and the value props of how they're setting up the video. Like a lot of times we don't think about the hook. The hook is really important because that's like your value prop of the video. Finally, the last thing I do for ideas is like I want to base things off my own experiences because I want to create a personal brand. I'll search internally through my week to see what's going on with my calendar, my community, the content I'm watching or consuming, like books I'm reading, videos I'm watching, clients that I'm helping, and also projects that I'm working on, things I've created. These are all C's, by the way: calendar, community, content consuming, clients, and creative. I think an important thing though, while this is more upfront work, this is totally worth it. Keep in mind, this also does not guarantee success. I mean, I do this for almost every single video now with my team too. Like I have my thumbnail, a designer look through things as well. All I'm looking to do is just shift the odds in my favor. The next thing I wish someone told me was to keep the unique viewer experience in mind. So I think I actually did a horrible job at this because like when I look back at my channel, I'm just like, hey, what do I want to talk about all the time? Which is cool sometimes, but I feel like you need an interesting life. Like the value prop of some of these girl vloggers is that they're entertaining, they have a personality, right? And when I look back at my channel in particular, the mistake I made was like copying or trying to be like someone else. So if you look at my channel, you can be like, oh, he kind of followed Ali Abdaal back then, or he was kind of Vanessa Lau, or he was like, you know, Hormozy Bros, right? And I noticed other people doing the same type of content too. Like, don't get me wrong, if you want to try something, go ahead and try it. experimenting is part of the game, and you'll learn things, you'll notice things that you like and don't like in that process. But in the long run, it doesn't really make sense to just rip off someone's content, because like, okay, everybody remembers Mr. Beast, but no one remembers Matthew Beam, whatever. He's like one of those copycat channels. No one remembers him. And I don't think by copying Mr. Beast, Matthew Beam will ever be as big as Mr. Beast, unless he gets canceled, which is right now. What I realized, like after scrolling through these Mr. Beast lookalikes and stuff, content isn't memorable either. And so something I think about a lot is like, if we want to create a personal brand, how can we create a unique, memorable experience for people? And in my opinion, there's 3 ways, right? There's like the ideas that we have on our channel. We already talked about this. There's the kind of like the content format. We already talked about this. And then there's the personal brand. I don't think people really talk about this too much. If Ali Abdaal was talking about an idea like passive income, he'd be like, in today's video, we're gonna explore the 7 different ways I make passive income on this channel. He has an explorative vibe. Alex Hormozy, Jimbro, is more contrarian. He would kind of be like, chances are, if you want to do passive income, you're doing it wrong. You need to work harder. Here's why, right? Like, it's totally different. And the beautiful thing is they're both talking about the same concept, right? They might have the same talking head format, but the vibe is totally different. And this goes into this concept of brand archetype, right? And the beautiful thing is, like, some people are going to relate to more Hormozy stuff. Other people are going to relate more to Ali Abdaal stuff. And that is perfectly okay. And that's why it's not a zero-sum game. There's like people that are going to watch both of your stuff. There's going to be content that you just naturally gravitate more to. But what is personal branding? I think I would categorize it in these 3 ways. One, there's a vibe. So how you deliver the content. I think about this concept of brand archetypes. If we look at the type of friends that we have some who are jokesters. We have some who are like the philosophers. We have some who are like really rebellious and stuff like that. We have all these different type of personalities. This is based off psychology, by the way, but brand archetypes, that could be a whole video by itself, by the way. The second thing is visual identity. So I think about things like your editing style. Is it like super high dopamine, like quick cuts, or is it more like podcast, long form, like kind of like this? Your typography, so your fonts and stuff, your colors, and your color palette as well. And then there's like brand voice. I like to think about like your vision, your mission, your unique experiences too. Like Mike Kim, one of my great friends, he actually has a great thing in his like book, You Are the Brand. I have it somewhere in this room. It's on the other side, but he has 3 prompts. What do you feel like is BS to you? What breaks your heart? And what's the big problem that you're trying to solve? If you want to learn more about branding, there's a few great resources. There's Kay Putnam's website, which has a quiz on brand archetypes. And there's Iconic Fox, which I'll link to. Oh my God, this is a big one. Make feedback as a part of your process. Something I wish I kind of did a lot sooner was get more feedback up front. And I think a lot of it was because like, oh, I hated getting feedback for a long ass time because it made me feel like I wasn't good enough. But now that I'm older and more mature, I'm just like, oh, I actually really need this, you know? So, and there's like ways to get it less painfully, by the way. I'll explain in a bit. I think like as you're watching this video or you watch other videos, you're probably like, oh my God, I have so many great ideas. I could do this video, this video, this video. But the truth is, like, how do you know if they're any good? And I think like this is the punch in the face moment. Mike Tyson has a great quote. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And it's like the worst thing that you could ever do is just act on one of these ideas, think it's good, but you're paying a high ignorance tax because you're a total beginner. And so I think by getting feedback is really, really important. But the truth is, like, not all feedback is good. I think a lot of times we have biases, which is totally normal, right? Here's a few things that I think about, like when it comes to YouTube, like there's a sunk cost bias. Like if you didn't do the content packaging, like I told you, like if you shot a video and you really want a video to work out and you're like, oh man, I already did this, I might as well finish it, right? That's sunk cost bias where you're investing into a project because you already invested an initial amount of effort. There's confirmation bias, which is like you're just seeking out the information that validates kind of your existing beliefs or your hypothesis, right? And then there's like a perfectionism bias, like it's a tendency to overemphasize of making everything perfect, right? And we know that feedback can really help prevent these biases. We have to realize not all feedback is the same. There's certain feedback that will help your channel way more than other type of feedback. It should go in this order. You should get feedback on your content packaging. This includes the thumbnail, topic, and title. The next area of feedback I think is important is like the content format. This is like the structure of your video, your hook, your value prop. This is kind of like the macro, right? And then the last one is like retention feedback, like that edit of your story, the video. This is all the micro stuff. If someone watched your video or give you feedback, this is where you get your feedback. I literally got this question right before this and kind of pissed me off. But literally every single beginner is like, hey, can you check out my video, see if it's good? They never ask, hey, is my content packaging good? We know that we need to get this feedback in certain orders, especially if you're strapped on time. You might not be able to get feedback on all these stages. This is ideal, right? Now that we know why feedback is important, how do we actually practically reduce it? What I've noticed by hiring editors, like a thumbnail editor or a video editor editing this video, it helps me gain an outside perspective, be able to be like, hey, this is good, this is kind of and plus, by working people better than me, it reduces my perfectionism. And I would say the most important thing, if you had to hire one, I'm sorry, editor editing this, but it would be the thumbnail designer, just because it's more upstream versus downstream. I could do a really potato-y type of video and it would probably perform a lot better than a super high edited video with a crappy thumbnail. You know, that's kind of the truth. I think by hiring people, it just helps you kind of reduce your bias a lot more. The second thing I think to reduce your bias within yourself and get really good feedback is like make creator friends. I've invested into a lot of YouTube programs. The main benefit is just like meeting new people all the time. And through these programs, I like to create mini pods, right? And you can do this yourself. You can take a program like the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, right? I have a link below. Or you could join a mastermind. I also have like a YouTube mastermind. But what I realized by having these groups of creators helps you grab different perspectives. And because of that, you can identify different trends that are working in different niches all the time, and it helps you become a lot more versatile. And it also helps with the lonely journey too. I think one of the things that we forget about is like YouTube can be super, super lonely. Most people in this industry kind of know other YouTubers, and that's how they get their support. That emotional support is so important. But it's also really good to like be like, hey, does this thumbnail hit or not hit, right? And since they have a different perspective, they might be able to create a different angle for a thumbnail. The third thing to get feedback is hiring a board of advisors. My team is about to invest into the Part-Time YouTuber Accelerator. They just have really, really good systems where they can review our content, they can review our thumbnails and stuff, they can talk strategies, and we can get their point of view too. Another thing that I wish I kind of knew about was to use AI to speed the enablement of creation. If you use AI, like majority of the population, like, oh yeah, I'm just going to Google, like, write me a YouTube script. Half the time AI sucks ass just straight out of the box because it doesn't know what you like, it doesn't know your preferences. Like, hopefully up until this point, I've kind of like emphasize like, hey, brand vibe, brand archetype, branding is really important. We have to understand like what words we use and all that sort of stuff. And the way I think about it is like, there's this consulting term where it's like trash in, trash out, and it is so true. I'll probably do a separate video on it. If we want to make AI really good, we have to think about it in a systematic way. One, we have to feed it really good data. So a good knowledge base, like how do I actually talk? Maybe I'll feed it all the transcripts of all my YouTube videos, which is a lot. I don't do that. But like the podcasts I do, especially the solo cast, my newsletters, kind of that stuff, the branding, I'll feed it outlier data. So like 1 of 10 has a really great Figma like thing where it breaks down everything. Same with like Creator Pros, I'll like throw in all those titles and stuff to show outliers there. And then we'll have to run it through a process, right? What are the best practices? So I bought a lot of these courses like George Blackman's, PTYA, like all these different programs, and I've kind of like consolidated what I think the best practices are for all these things. We have to kind of instruct it what we want the output to look like, right? What I'll do is then I'll read them through a dictation app. I use like things like Literally and all that. I'll leave a link below. It'll be an affiliate link. But yeah, like I read it through just to make sure it's coherent, it makes sense and stuff like that. I'll then use my custom GPT to kind of transform that initial block of text into like a really good title or script and like improve the content packaging. It'll come up with different angles based off what I give it. So a lot of times these will have my brand guidelines, my standard operating procedures from the courses I've taken, my ideal avatar viewer and stuff, outlier data. And then it'll pop out like different YouTube ideas and titles based off of like kind of my brand guidelines. So I really like all lowercase type of things. And I also have a separate YouTube scriptwriter bot and an email writer bot. If you want a video, just let me know. I'll do a separate one. But then what I'll do is like, I'll edit the final version and let ChatGPT know what I like and don't like about this, and then have it rewrite me another prompt. So every single iteration gets better and better and better. Hopefully. I'm not the AI expert, but yeah. But I'll be honest though, AI is still pretty rough sometimes. Like sometimes it's just like really dumb. Certain post-production stuff that is still really rough. But my bet is like it'll get better and better over time. But yeah, I'll do a straight tutorial on this. Number 9, the last thing I wish someone kind of told me is like getting punched in the face is 100% normal, right? Like out of all tips, by the way, like I've been very tactical on this. Out of all the tips and things that I mentioned, I think this is the most important thing because it's so easy to get discouraged on YouTube, to be honest with you. Things will go wrong, but that's what we're learning, right? Like a day one YouTuber never thinks about like, oh yeah, I should do thumbnails, right? It's like, I'm not getting any views. What the hell is going on? Well, there's this concept of thumbnails, Kevin. Do you know about that? I'm like, no, I didn't. And then you start focusing on it, getting better at it like over time. To be honest, I think it's completely normal to have like multiple breakdowns in a year where you're just like, oh my God, I want to burn down my channel. I've seen it in my mastermind happen so many times. But I think the key is to have like a system for support, a system for feedback, also the mental mindset game. You know, like a lot of people trash on therapy and stuff, but one good thing about like the art of mental health and stuff is like you learn how to emotionally regulate, you learn to notice your patterns, your thoughts, and because of that, I don't react impulsively anymore. I notice these thoughts like, oh, I want to burn down the channel and delete it, but I don't ever do that. Like, I think in the past, what I really wanted to do was like, oh, something's not working out, I'm going to change all these things. But what I realized is like, before even taking the time to make any changes on the channel, I just take some time to really reflect now. I pick specific areas I want to change and I kind of leverage the experience of my network, my friends, my creator friends, my board of advisors, and everything that I was telling you about. The most important thing too is just like really try to enjoy as much as the process as we can. We can really enjoy the process rather than hate it. I think one thing that I'm just really proud of myself is that over time I've been able to reduce the attachment to the goals, the outcomes, the views, the money that I'm making every single time, and just really focus more on the creator goals, as Vanessa Lau termed it. By the way, I'm creating a full free YouTube course soon that will be released on this channel. Subscribe to the channel, join my email list. Anyways, stay compassionate, stay authentic, stay rebellious. Peace, my people. Bye.